So hi and welcome, and today we're going to be modding the Zowie S2 to make it look like this. These are the components that have been taken out of it. These are the components I've added to it to reduce the weight and to change the cable to make it a bit more flexible. And today I'm going to go through and show you exactly how to do that, which components to use, which tools you're going to need, and give you a step-by-step guide on doing that. I'm also going to give you my view on how good this is and whether it's worth doing yourself. There's a few versions. This is the resin one. There's a 3D printed one as well. And also I'm going to show you another video where I'm going to mod the standard components myself to see what we can do without having to buy these extra bits. And if you like this video enough, then I'll also do the 3D printed version, because I'll realize that you'll want to see that as well, potentially. Although it's going to be very similar. If you haven't already, check out my beardybob.com website. On there, I've got loads of other information for statistics for mice, which I do for my reviews, like button press, latency tests, things like that. Let's see how this mouse mods, because I know a lot of you have been waiting for it. This is certainly one of the most requested ones, potentially not with the resin shell, but for the modding of it. So hopefully you like this, and I do listen to you out there. So let's get on with the video. Just starting off here, let's weigh the mouse, and in its entirety it's 133 grams. With just a bit of cable, it comes in at 90 grams. The resin shell altogether comes in at 36 grams. If you take just the base of the res shell, it comes in at 15 grams. If you take the top part of the resin shell, it's 21 grams in weight. You're going to need a hairdryer to take the skates off. A few people have said you can use some lighter fluid to do this as well, and I still need to test that, so I don't want to recommend it. So for the moment, I'm just going to recommend using a hairdryer. What I also use is a little nylon tool that I'll put a link in the description for, as well for everything else that you see in here. And this allows you just to prise the skates off without damaging them too much. It's a good little tool here. Mine's a little bit worn, I do need a new one, but it does help push these skates off very easily so you don't damage them while you're taking them off. Now on the Zowie, the screws at the rear here, this is the only screw, but we're going to take the front skate off as well because we're transferring it onto the new shell. Once the skates are off, get your screwdriver, remove that one rear screw, it's quite a long one. Then just pull the shell apart. It's slightly clipped at the front, where it sits into the front of the shell, but other than that, it doesn't hold it in any other places. There's two ribbons here that just pull out, there's no clips holding them in. One for the scroll wheel and one for the side buttons, just pull those out. Then you'll see you've also got your connector for your cable as well. Get your screwdriver again, it's all the same screwdriver here. Just remove the screw here for the side buttons. And then take the 3 screws out for the scroll wheel here that's being held in. You just pull out the scroll wheel, just wiggle it a little bit, it'll nip out really easily, no problems. Then all I do here with the screwdriver is gently just lift up the side buttons here and they just pop out. Take those away. Then you got the side buttons which are clipped into the shell here. Just give them, to prise off the 2 little hooks that hang around the 2 screw holes. And then there's another pin in the middle. Just give it a little bit of a pull and push in the side buttons and it should just pop out like this. Yeah, boy. Now there's a center screw that's black in the middle holding the 2 shells together. And then you've also got the clips holding the shell itself together. Take out the black screw in the washer. And there's 3 clips at the back that you need to prise down. They can be pretty hard on your fingers here, so expect to have some sore fingers after this. And also they do bend a little bit, so try not to bend them too much so that you snap them, because you won't be able to put them back in. You'll have a wobbly shell. No one wants that. Now, the other trick here is use a screwdriver to push the front clips off the buttons here that hold them on. So these basically are the plungers for the buttons that connect to the switch, but you can push them forward to lift them off the front of the shell. Makes it a little bit easier to take the rear shell off, I find anyway. Takes a bit of working. Like I say, it's going to hurt your hands. You're going to have to keep on playing with it. It's not easy, so don't expect to pop it off straight away unless you've got a really loose shell. No one likes a loose shell. And eventually it'll just pull apart into 2 pieces. So this is the piece we're going to replace. This is the main shell here. See, it's pretty thick. Looking at the PCB, there's 3 screws here we need to take out. So Zowie make the mice really well here. They've got plenty of screws. So we can certainly save some weight when we do the mod ourselves here and see what we can get out of it. I'm going to put it all back together in this video, so it'll be maximum weight just with the new resin shell. Now one of the things that I have done here is I've already broken the clips that connect the cable to the PCB. This was done prior. Just be careful when you're unclipping it. It's not the easiest one to unclip here from Zowie. Got these two little weird side pieces that you have to try and lift off that hold the cable in place. And if you do it wrong like I did, you can snap them, so just be careful with this. Now, it won't affect your mouse if you snap it. You can hold it with a bit of tape, or you could glue it if you wish, so it's not the end of the world, but not ideal. Getting the resin shell, the PCB will place on the base in the same position. There's holes for the screws to go in here. Now, they don't seem threaded, these screws, so they're a little bit tough to screw in. Can take a little bit of work. I just try not to strip them by over tightening them when you get them in there. Otherwise, you can have a bit of a rattly board, and well, yeah, we don't have a rattly board either. No rattly shell, no rattly board. Again, putting the 3 screws back in. Keep it nice and tight. The other thing to note here is on the base plate, we couldn't bring the switches for the base, so you can have the switches exposed on the bottom of this mouse. There is no buttons there to press the switches. Putting in the power cord here, going to do a little bit of a test to see how it fits. This is a really nice cord here from Power Cable Mods. They're doing a good job making this cable, no complaints from my side. I'm just seeing how you push it down the sides here and just making sure it fits before I finally heat shrink the black connectors here. Because you want to make sure this is the right length so it's not pulling on the mouse too much inside, and just give a bit of a mock measurement to make sure you're good. So putting the shell, original top shell on top of the resin here. Again, you just got to clip over the front buttons, they're like the little plungers, make sure they go into the right sticky out bits on the resin, I guess you could call it. I don't know what you call those. And then just clip it all back together. One thing I don't like about this resin shell is where the scroll wheel is just at the top of it. There's a round bit. I don't understand why they've not molded that, and it's square. I think it looks pretty rubbish. Bit of a shame, really. Could have put a nicer finish on this. Because the quality of the resin shell is good. It does feel nice. It's really hard. It's nice and smooth. But things like that kind of concern me in kinds of the finishing. They probably should have finished that a bit better, and I don't really understand why they didn't. Putting again the screw here for the resin shell to hold it together against the top shell from Zowie. You need a little washer again to do this. So pressing down here on these buttons, I'm not impressed with the fit straight away. I'm going to put it together and we'll do a sound test and you'll see what I mean. And I'll show you how to trim that down with a bit of filing. But the fit here isn't bad, but these buttons here are catching and you can certainly feel that, and that's why I'm just checking it, because it's not the best fit at the start here. But this is one of the issues you have with pre-molded shells here, that they're not all the same and they do take a bit of work here to get them to be the perfect fit for you, so expect to do a little bit of work if you're bound in these shells. The side buttons just clip back in. You've got to push them down a little bit. It took a little bit of work in here. They weren't the easiest to put in, but they weren't too difficult. And then the side buttons, the switches themselves slide in again, and they've got the nice pre-cut grooves here, which was good to see. No complaints here when this goes in. For the resin shell, I paid $20.79 for it, which was cheap compared to what's out there now. They're about $30, which I think is a little bit expensive. I got this one at $21, which was good. The first thing I notice here is this scroll wheel doesn't fit in. Now, on their website, on AliExpress, in fairness, they did show you how to put the scroll wheel in, but it took me a little bit here to work it out, because it's not the same as the default Zowie shell here. They haven't got any screw holes in the top, so it can be a little bit tricky to get to put back together. I don't know why they haven't done that, why they've molded it differently. It would have been a lot easier with Zowie's way, so I'm trying to like work out how it goes back together. I'm like, what? You can see they've mounted the holes on the base instead of on the main top shell, which is different to how Zowie designed it. You have to screw the scroll wheel to the base as well with the other PCB, which wasn't how it came apart, so something to note here when you put it back together. It's going to be slightly different. Screws are not the easiest to get into this base. Again, they're not threaded, so you have to pre-thread them with the screw without the risk of stripping it, which is a little bit of a tricky situation sometimes, so just be careful when screwing them in. Now, what I've noticed here is I've got one screw left over, and that is the screw for the switches, which I forgot to put back in. So if you're putting the switches in, there's a screw that needs to go back to hold them down. I don't think it's going to cause me a problem because they're in there tight anyway. But if you want to make sure they're really secure, you probably want to just screw them in, so put that screw in, which you see me take out when I take it apart. I don't put it back in when I rebuild it. So again, just mocking up the power cord here, just making sure I've got the right length, making sure I've got the first shrink wrap black piece in position here to put the cable a bit tighter, stop it pulling. I'm going to use my hairdryer here to heat that up and get it to shrink wrap. You can use like a little blowtorch and stuff like that. I've only got a hairdryer, and be careful of your fingers because it is pretty hot. But the hairdryer takes a little bit longer than I would expect to do this, but it still works, so all good. Once we've done that, we need to mock up the front black one as well and see where that fits to hold the cable in at the front of the mouse, stop it being pulled, and again use the hairdryer to shrink wrap that in place. Once you've done the black piece, there's some clear little rings to stop it pulling through. You need to get those on the end again, positioning it right at the end of the black shrink wrap here, and then reheat that again to shrink it round the black shrink wrap, which creates like a little plug, stops the cable being pulled through the front of the mouse and ripping it out the back of the PCB, which would not be pretty. All these little connections and stuff are built with the cable when you buy it from the person who's built them, so you should get these with it. Allow you to do this, you don't need to buy them as extras. Nice. Push from the power cord down the side in here, that's where it was originally. And then we should be ready to put the shell back on. Getting the shell, remember the ribbon cables goes. You've got one that goes into the back of the PCB, which is different. I'm trying to work it out because we've taken the shell apart, which was different. It's now in a different position, so the scroll wheel ribbon cable just goes in the back of the PCB. It doesn't hang down anymore. The side switch one goes near the power cord here. They just push in. So you see you've got to put the scroll wheel in the top of the mouse here, which is what I didn't realise originally, because I don't particularly like doing that. I'm not sure it's going to align right, or it feels like it won't align right, but it does. This is where they were showing us on the video, and then you have to hook the two front hooks into the front of the mouse, and then push it down, and that locks the scroll wheel in place. And then you just got the rear put a screw in, which is good enough. Overall, this resin shell is finished nice. It's got a nice smooth texture. You could certainly paint it as well, which I haven't done yet, which I would recommend because this looks not particularly great, this colour combo. But I wouldn't buy this shell, one because it's 10 grams heavier than a 3D printed one, and they're about the same price. And secondly, because I really had some issues with the fitting. Wasn't impressed with this rear screw, it doesn't go in properly. It wouldn't lock the base into it, which kind of annoyed me. The side edges I've got to trim out with a bit of a file here as well. For me, it made the mouse feel a little bit cheaper than it should be. I mean, it's okay. I'd rather draw my own here personally, and we'll do that in another video. If you can't do it yourself, then you're going to have to pick the res or the 3D print, and I will do, if you want me to, a 3D print one, let me know. And like I say, give me quite a few likes here, and I'll see that's what you're interested in. And I'll take a look and compare that against the resin, because I think the quality of the 3D print one's not going to be as good. And you're probably going to still have some fitting issues here. This certainly didn't work out just to be a quick swap over. I've had to do a little bit of work on it as well, so expected you need a file, put it that way. I'll just run my hairdryer over these feet again here to seal them on. Once you've taken them off, if you do that, the glue resets. Pretty good idea. Helps them stick better if they've lost a bit of stickiness on these Hyperglides, which this one's got on. And just give it a little rub on the desk to push them in place, keep them flat. So overall, the weight with the shell is 78 grams with a little bit of cable. So we've saved a whopping 12 grams here. Not as much as I expected to save from this, at least 20 grams. 98 grams, but that's probably to do with the power cord here rather than the actual shell itself coming at 98 grams in total. As you can see, the base here, the standard base is 19 grams, and we weighed the other one, resin one, at 15 grams, so 3 grams difference. The top shell comes in at 28 grams from Zowie here, with the resin one coming in at 21 grams, so you're saving around 7 grams. So again, the weight saving on this for me just probably isn't worth it. Now you've heard that, as you can tell, it's not particularly great. So now we're going to sand down the edges here because this is where it's catching from what I can tell, and see if we can improve that and see if we can get a better click, because I certainly wouldn't want to use it like this. So to me that doesn't sound great. It doesn't feel great either. I personally wouldn't use it or recommend this resin shell. Power cord I would certainly recommend. But the overall feel of this shell with this modification for me just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel as nice as it used to as a true Zowie. So I'm looking forward to modding it myself and seeing what I can do. And and I will do a 3D shell, like I said, if you all want to see that as well. So as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.